Hi, I'm Don Clark with FileMakerProGurus.com and FM Database Consulting. We're here at FileMaker Devcon 2015, and today I'm interviewing James Hay from Dataworks Pro.
Yeah.
And you're in the greater, and that's Dataworkspro.ca,
Correct.
not .com.
Yeah.
And you're in the greater Toronto area, and you can tell me the actual name.
Yeah, I'm actually in Mississauga, but it's the next suburb outside of Toronto, so
Okay.
we're right there.
Well, tell me about your business. Let's start with that.
Yeah, so actually I just had to reincorporate my business because I've been away for 7 years. I was the project manager at HSBC Bermuda. Before that, I had my own company, Dataworks. We added the Pro since now after 7 years experience, we're pros. I also got my MBA at the same time. But Dataworks has worked with a lot of different clients. Back near FileMaker 7 coming out, I wrote a couple of articles in FileMaker Advisor. I was part of the FileMaker Development Conventions in 2005, that first go. So I got to work with a lot of top FileMaker people, but I've also had a lot of clients in government, business, nonprofits, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're also presenting this year.
Yeah, so I'm actually doing a case study on change management in regulated industry, kind of a review of my experience with HSBC Bermuda, and just how FileMaker as a FileMaker developer and the FileMaker product has to adapt to the pretty rigorous requirements of regulated industries in terms of security, in terms of processes, those kinds of things. Yeah. And
share a little bit with us on that, if you can.
Yeah, sure, no, absolutely. Well, because FileMaker is an integrated environment, developers get to touch everything, right? They touch the data, they touch the schema, they touch the scripting, the interface, all that kind of stuff.
And a FileMaker Pro developer is in bed with your data.
Absolutely, you're right there.
Yeah.
But in a regulated industry, the data really is sacred, and confidentiality, privacy, any number of banking laws, international laws as well. You want to really make sure that that data is protected and that you have the full approval of the business when you do anything in terms of changing data. Same thing with processes, and I know when you come back from Devcon, you're excited, you want to refactor, you want to make something slicker and better, but you really don't have that freedom in a regulated industry. You really have to work with the business, make sure that they're okay with the idea of making changes, because they're counting on processes that have worked for them. And so introducing any change introduces risk, and so there's a whole bunch of procedures that we have to follow just to make sure that we do that right, do that well.
And what do you do about the security aspects of a developer having full access?
Yeah, so there were some interesting conundrums with that, and the main umbrella that it comes under is separation of duties. You have the IT team, the development team, and then you have the business who use the data on a day-to-day basis. And so you want to monitor in a production system for sure. In the development system it's a little different. But in the production system you want to make sure that the developers are not really able to go in, modify anything, play with any data, that would be the worst thing, or play with any routines that may affect the data on a live system, on a production system. So in that last year that I was there, the auditors came by and asked, do I have full access to a production system? And the fact was that we did. So they wanted to have us deal with that in a different way. And so what we did then is we started using the Manage Extended Privileges function, and we created separate accounts for that, so that a manager could actually turn off full user access, full high privilege access, by turning off the FMAP capability, the network access capability. And then through that process, if we needed to get in to make changes, we would have to do a request. The manager would have to come in, turn that on, log when we went in, log when we came out. And that way the auditors felt a lot better about knowing when full access people were going into systems and when they were coming out of the systems.
That's a pretty smart solution to a tough problem.
It was a tough problem because we had a lot of files. We had 140 files that we're managing, 35 different solutions across 3 different servers. And so we had to go through every single one of them and adapt them to every single developer, because that was another security thing, is that each account has to be unique and identifiable. So you can't have a dev account it has to be that specific developer, that specific developer, that specific
Yeah,
developer.
so they know who did what, or
They
at least
know-
when they were there. And
Yes,
if there's
exactly.
some kind of
Knew
change they can
who,
track
who
back.
was in there and when and that kind of thing.
I'll bet you had pretty strong auditing techniques too, for what was done to a degree.
Well, that's a really great point, because there are two different types of audits. There's the things that you include in your FileMaker solution, and there is a good case to having proper auditing of who went into what record, when they modified it, what the changes were, and that kind of a thing. But there's also who went into the server and who logged in when, and that kind of a thing. So if you don't have logging built into your solutions, and many of these solutions were a little older, so they didn't have that built in. And it's not so easy to see on all the servers, because we had multiple servers, who went in when, and tracking it like that, even though that's available. So I don't think we fully solved that problem, but by adding this additional log where we could check mark when a full access developer went into a system, we had a better log that we could show the auditors of who was doing what when. So it was a big deal.
Well, let's go back a little bit in time.
Yeah.
What got you interested in FileMaker in the first place?
Well, that's a great question. I was in the car business for 8 years, actually. And at one point I became the head of the fleet department, so I was doing fleet sales. Everything was on paper at that time. This is the late 80s. Macs were out, I was aware of them, and of course PCs had been out for a few years. I was using a program called 8-in-1 on a PC. To do quotes, and it was kind of a spreadsheet thing. And then I got my Mac in 1991, and I used ClarisWorks to create a little database. And at the end of 91, I decided I wanted to move on to high tech. And I moved to an Apple retail store at that time, a Mac retail store. And I said, oh, I'm using ClarisWorks. And they said, have you heard about FileMaker? I said, what's FileMaker? So in 1995, I started my first FileMaker business, and I've been using it. I've been working in it since 1992, but full time since 1995. And what really got me excited about FileMaker was the companies I was working with were providing professional services, and some of that was building databases. And they were using a fairly heavy database environment. And just pulling up a list could take minutes and minutes and minutes. Now, they both went out of business, but I happened to get the list of all the customers.
Oh,
and
that's
so
nice.
I contacted them and I said, have you seen what FileMaker can do? I did a demo, and then of course they realized they could get a lot more for a lot less money. And that's how I started my business. I ended up servicing clients who were using systems that were really quite slow, and then they speeded up dramatically with the use of FileMaker.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was really
And then
nice.
they never turned back on that one,
And
did
never
they?
turned back.
Yeah.
And then I became a Clara Solutions Alliance member right away. That's such a huge benefit. I just rejoined as an FBA member in January.
Okay.
And I get leads all the time from that. There's just so much business out there, which is really great to know. And so yeah, I'm working with clients again, which is really exciting, and slowly building up my business again after being away for 7 years. But
Yeah.
same type of
Yeah,
idea.
the FileMaker Business Alliance was at the meeting last night as well.
Yeah.
And ended up with sitting at the table with Dwayne Moss of MC Services.
Okay, yeah.
And he won that award for mobile communications and really developing that field. And I was sitting at the table with 6 of his employees. He wasn't at the table, but he came in this morning. We talked for 45 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, and fascinating. And he's focuses a lot in an area that I think is really important for small developers, which is business or management consulting, and applying those principles of doing goals and team building and key performance indicators and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I attended Luke Rochester's session last year, which was on having a dashboard in your pocket, the palm of your hand and your phone. And I just completed one of those dashboards for a client. It's just really totally amazing that you can get that data, you can look at it graphically, and you can go year to year, month to month. Just everything is right there.
Drill down right from there.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
So that's really sweet.
Yeah. And have you had a great time here so far at the conference?
Yeah, I tell you, I had missed a few Devcons, I think from 2009 to 2014. And so I went back last year, And I have to tell you, I thought it was the networking that I really was coming for, and I love networking, I love meeting people, as you probably can guess. But I really enjoy the knowledge I get. That really gets me going, and I realized I had been dry for a few years, and I will never miss a Devcon again. It just has been really
I didn't make last year's, and this year I started off with the intention of coming here to go to this, and 2 years ago when I was here, I recorded all the vendors. I carried a camera around it, but the quality of the video was with the loud noise, and the lunches were right there where they had everything, and they were okay. We had a remote microphone. In fact, it was one of these, and one of those cameras, and we carried that around, and I did all that stuff. I went to a lot of the sessions. This time, however, after my marketing guru over here said, let's do it this way. Let's get as many people in here, and let's just set up and stay here all the time.
No, it's nice.
And it's a good thing. It's going to, we're going to be able to share a lot of information
I bet.
about people and about their businesses all over the country and all over the world. I mean, I've got guys from Sweden and from Denmark and from Germany and France, and Great Britain, So I was trying to get one of them from South America. I'm not sure if he's going to make it, but
no. But people have come from all over the world. It's really quite amazing. The one other area that's growing in terms of interest for me is knowledge management, and FileMaker is a knowledge management platform. In fact, my most recent client said to me, we have a lot of knowledge in our users. They weren't using the system, but people working in the office, and we're afraid we're going to lose that. And that's one of the reasons they're automating. That's one of the reasons they're going to FileMaker Pro. And I thought, that's an underplayed story, that we can really bring in a lot of knowledge. The ability to handle virtually any type of digital asset just makes it really easy from the data management point of view. But the other thing about the FileMaker community, and since you asked about Devcon, is just how closely connected we all are. And we love sharing what we know. I know I've talked to a number of senior developers. I'm going to be sharing some stuff that I have, and they're going to be sharing some stuff that they have. And that's a huge thing. That's a passing on of knowledge, and you're building up that community of knowledge. And I know a number of the sessions this year have been on how to attract younger people to do FileMaker development, and it's this community that will really do that.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason I started the blog, FileMakerProGurus.com, is because there was no central repository of somebody excerpting these things, finding the ones, finding the great articles, and I make comments on them as you've seen, and then give my 2 cents worth for what it's worth, or just a little guidance about what this thing is, why it's worthwhile for you to look at it. Sometimes, and then boom, it started growing, and that's over 20,000 views a month.
Okay, that's
so
nice.
Now when I put something up there. It gets hits, and then it goes back to their website. They feel better about it. And,
and I think this is good too, because there are many stories behind the story at Devcon, and I'm sure you get that chance to get a bit more of that.
Oh, I'm learning all kinds of neat stuff. Learning some insider stuff, some of the stuff we can't share.
All of a sudden the screen goes black.
Yeah, we actually turned off the cameras at one point in time when we had Richard Carlton in here, because he says, this is stuff, I'm not going to talk about this. We said, we'll turn off the cameras anyway, so there's no chance that this gets recorded and be a problem. But
he's doing a good job with his videos, by the way. I've been watching a
He
lot
does
of
a
his
great
videos.
job with his videos,
and, Soliant TV as well, putting a shout out to both of them. Having been working in one environment for 7 years, and we were sort of stuck at FileMaker 11, I had to make that transition to the newer software and to the newer practices and the newer best ways to approach things. And both those companies have done a very credible job of bringing a lot of knowledge out about FileMaker 14. So, shout out to them.
So you were at the meeting on Monday, the opening session, and heard some of the path forward to FileMaker.
And I thought they were clear. I thought they were pretty clear about a path forward.
You think it's a good path?
Absolutely. And without revealing anything, obviously, the whole thing about FileMaker is leveraging its strengths. This is one of the issues that we have in the change management field, that many of the legacy policies don't really address some of the strengths of FileMaker. But the real strength of FileMaker is it's a data repository that can distribute to 5 platforms by writing to one file. What else does that? And then the second thing is that it can communicate to virtually any other type of system. And I think FileMaker's taken good note of that and trying to make that easier and trying to integrate that more into the core product. And I think that's just the way. That's fantastic. That's a fantastic direction to be taking.
Yeah, and it's not meant to be, you know, a high-speed transaction process for, you know, thousands of operations per second or something like that. But what it does is collate that information and give us data from it.
You know, when an executive can walk out and on his phone or on her phone or on her iPad look at those summary results from their core system or from their big SQL system in a FileMaker interface, it makes a huge difference to them. You know, having your data in your hand, being able to respond to data in your hand. This was a gap that we had when I was down in Bermuda. Is we had some great systems that we had designed, but people wanted to be able to execute approvals on their phones. Now with FileMaker, you know, 12, 13, and now 14, the integration with mobile and iPhone and iPad, just there are no boundaries anymore. Yeah.
No, that's right. It's and now even equipped to the Android tablets and the you know with WebDirect. And WebDirect is with 14, I think is robust enough to really put it into good systems, and it's going to get better as time goes on.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, I was real pleased with what I heard on
speaking to the keynote, definitely there's some nice positive news in that direction
and there's been some changes in the organizational structure for the people. And I think that those changes are positive. And the people I've talked to,
it's hard to adapt to change. I mean, I know that there was a lot of change going on in the bank, and that puts pressure on the people that are there. But it is an opportunity to look at things freshly, to look at things from a slightly different perspective. You have to adapt. You have to modify your approach. I think we're seeing more, I don't want to say it this way, but I think we're seeing more younger people coming into the organization. And I think that's a good thing because they're bringing a lot of good ideas, a lot of good technical capability as well.
Yeah, I've seen that. Did you talk to any of the new employees?
I've been sitting, having lunch with a few of them, and I've been to a few of the sessions, and they're brilliant. First of all, many of them are very articulate. You know, they do a lot of back-end stuff, but they can present really, really well. And they really understand the impact of their product, and they really understand the kinds of things that users and developers are looking for. I've been impressed with what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think they're on the right track moving forward. So we're going to have a great platform that's just going to get better. Better faster than ever before.
Yeah, and again, when you start comparing to almost anything else, there's nothing else out there where you can write a single file and distribute on 5 platforms.
Yeah, you can access though. You can do it with Windows. So.
Yeah. With a 2-gig limit.
A little bit of low blow there. Hey. At any rate, it's I wanted to ask you another question. Let's change the subject.
Sure.
You have some off time, I know. You probably have some interest. What are the things you like to do when you're not doing your business in FileMaker?
In Bermuda, it was really easy to do a lot of snorkeling, a lot of hiking. There were a lot of charity walks and things like that. We really enjoyed that. Lying in the sun, of course, it was fantastic. Moving back to Canada, it has been a little bit of a challenge. You don't get to go outside as much. We played quite a bit of golf and even tennis in Bermuda. So we're looking to try and balance our lifestyle and get that going again back in Canada. But I like all those things. So golfing, tennis, walking, hiking, swimming, snorkeling. I did a little bit of sailing when I was in Bermuda. That was fun as well. So I think I have to go south to do a lot of my fun things.
Take up snow skiing.
Yeah, actually, you know, before we left, we had done that, and we rediscovered our snow skis, but we really haven't taken full advantage of that yet.
Well, that's great. It sounds like you got a well-rounded style, lifestyle, and
so. You know, it's a big deal to me. Actually, Gallup does something called Strength Finders. I don't know if you've heard of that. Strength Finders too, because they you know polled so many people, and I think they have 26 different types. But that was a really good thing. It sort of tells you what your strengths are and some of the things, and. Yeah, it was just some of the things that you'd mentioned, and now they completely slipped my mind. So obviously, aging has not been helping, but but it was really good to go through what your strengths are. One of them is I do like to work on my own, but I do like to connect as well. So finding that balance between you know, outward connecting and we're doing your programming and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and working on your business instead of working in your business.
Yes.
You know, and Robert and I over here, we talk about this from time to time about how a lot of the people we work with are, they purchased a business or built a business so they'd have a job.
Yes.
And that's what they do, is they work that job
And that's
all
fine
the
if
time.
that's what they want, but if they were thinking they were building a business.
they're in the middle of the business, and if something happens to them, the business goes away, and so on, but they're happy there, or at least they're stuck there.
Yes.
And so it's interesting to talk about all these management concepts and how you take it to the next level with goal setting and with working on your business instead of in your business, and all the different things you need to do to systematize and delegate. And
and especially from where I came from, working with the bank, this is a huge problem: succession, talent, and planning. One of my slides is just a big letter of resignation. So what happens when that FileMaker developer leaves, wins the $1 million, or gets a better offer somewhere else? So having proper processes in place, proper procedures in place, having those robustly tested, we discussed this in the presentation as well, big part of change management. And no one's there forever. No one wants to be there forever.
No. And it's going to happen someday. In fact, another interview, one of them said that exact thing. He said, one of mine, 49 years old, died.
Yes.
And another one, young, fell off a trampoline and died.
Yes. And those are such tragic losses.
Tragic losses, and makes you go, wow, what am I going to do? But he had a good plan in place, and he made it through.
Yeah.
And that's good for him and for his clients, and it's horrible for the person who's not there any longer.
No,
but
that's right. And
hopefully it's just moving on and going to a better job or doing some change and improvement in their lives.
But there's still the client and their infrastructure and their whole setup. For instance, when I came back, I ended up taking over some clients from another developer, and they didn't know what their passwords were. They didn't know what their server infrastructure was. They didn't know how to even get into their server.
Yeah.
So these are issues in terms of proper usage of FileMaker, disaster recovery. How can we leverage a solution if we can't get into it, or if we can't get access to the server? So disaster recovery plans and so on. Yeah, all those things.
It'd be nice to have one.
Yeah, exactly. And well, we did a lot of testing on that when we were in the bank. Of course.
I'm sure.
And we had to actually have it so that not a FileMaker developer could do it, but a non-FileMaker person, maybe a server person, could recover a FileMaker system, because we weren't always there. So if something happened in an off time, then somebody else on the team had to be able to take over. So there was quite robust testing, and those are kind of the things that the auditors would be looking for. Do you have a procedure? Do you have people who could do it? What happened when
Has it been tested?
Exactly.
Yeah. What, do you have anything more you'd like to share?
No, I think that's pretty good. I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you.
I'm really glad you're able to come up. So let me finish things up. So this is Don Clark with FileMakerProGurus.com and FM Database Consulting, and today James Hay.
Yes.
With the Irish spelling.
Irish spelling.
I remember that.
But no
with Dataworkspro.ca has been our guest, and it's been a very informative interview. Thanks very much for stopping by.
Thank you very much for having me. Okay.